What's up, YouTube? If you're new to my channel, I'm Samaj Tucker Bilal, but you can call me Tucker. I give weekly updates, crunch the numbers, as well as give insight on the trucking industry from my point of view. Today's video, man, I want to talk about a debate that's going on in the industry right now, and it's over-the-road drivers versus local drivers. I've been blessed enough to been able to have done both. I stayed over the road for essentially 4 months, back I think 4 days during that time, as well. I've been doing local work for the last year and a half, so I do have experience in both. It's kind of weird topic because it seems like people either feel strongly about it one way or another. It's kind of like politics. But I don't really see it that way. I do recognize that there's a ton of pros to doing over the road, as well as, obviously some pros to doing local. So what I want to do is lay those out for you, and hopefully by the end you can decide if local or over the road is best for you. If you watch these videos before, I do the weekly breakdown. So what I want to do is get over into some of the numbers. We had a fantastic week. Loads lined up perfectly. Again, I keep saying that every week's not going to be like this, but I think we're getting lucky. It is kind of peak season too because it is summertime right now. So let's go over the numbers. I'll let you guys decide if it was a good week or not, and then we'll get over into some of the pros and cons of local versus over the road driving. All right, so let's get into some of these numbers. We got RTS pulled up here. Don't really need to go over too many of these numbers. If you're familiar with any of my videos, we do screen recordings of every load that we've booked on RTS Pro, which is our factoring company. Screen recordings, so you can go through and see each individual load. For the last 2 weeks, it's been coming out to essentially the same as what I have here. We got $7,670 gross for the week, which is pretty good. It's really good. Like I said, 6,500 is normally 6,000. 6,500 is what we were floating at. It is peak season right now. So I'm not getting too excited because I know as soon as I think maybe like the fall, definitely Q1 comes, things are going to slow down a ton. But while it's hot, we got to get it. So we got 7,670. Not too bad. We did that on 1,743 loaded miles. Not a ton of deadhead. Always great when you can pick up a load and it brings you to the next one, and you're traveling 25 miles to get to your next one versus 100 miles, which happens. It's just a part of trucking. So with that, we got $4.40 per mile, which right now I think the average is $2.02 or $2.03 average for drive-ins, which is what I drive. $1,454 used on fuel. That would be a lot lower in a state like Texas or Oklahoma, but then again, you might not gross as much because I'm in between great markets: San Diego, Riverside, Ontario, Los Angeles. But if you can get this lowered, you can definitely increase your profit. So I'm always looking for the cheapest spots to get any type of diesel. So that's pretty much it for the numbers, man. Like I said, great week. If we can try to duplicate this next week, obviously that's the goal. But if I end up getting 65, 64, 6,000, I wouldn't even be surprised because things just happen to line up so perfectly. So we're going to switch over one more time, and we're going to get over into the pros and cons of over the road versus local. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump over into some of the pros and the cons of over the road versus local. We'll start off with over the road pros. So traditionally, more miles equals more money. You're doing about 700 miles a day if you're doing it right, in my opinion. But there's guys who run 500 to 600 miles per day. In general, more miles, more money in most cases. Second one, I got stops are less frequent because you may pick up a load on Monday and it may deliver on Thursday. You're not having to stop a ton. And with this, you can also kind of create your own schedule. So I know guys who like to drive at night, they're night owls, and it's great because you can avoid the traffic. You're kind of away alone with your thoughts. And if you can stay up and you can pull it off, Red Bulls or whatever you got to do, coffee, it could definitely make for a more peaceful ride to your delivery. This one, I got over the road drivers get to see multiple states. I got a chance to visit Chicago. I mean, I've been to Michigan, I've been to Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and it was great. And it was great. You got to see things you never would have seen in any other job. I can't imagine a scenario where I would have visited all of the states that I've been to. But especially if you're a guy who likes to, on your 34-hour reset, have a good time. Nashville, there's places out there that are fantastic, great food, great people. So one of the pros is that you do get to see things that you would have never seen otherwise. Let's get over into some of the cons of over the road. First one is the most obvious, and that's time away from family, man. You can't get away from it. A lot of guys are out for, you know, at least probably 3 weeks, two, maybe two. But most guys, most companies want these drivers to be out for about 3 weeks. And if you're away from 3 weeks, you got kids, you got a wife. Even if you don't, just your mom, your brothers, your sisters, your homies. It could be difficult to be out there on the road alone, and everyone back home is just life's going on without you. This one is for owner operators because I've had an experience with this. Um, a lot more wear and tear on your truck. If you're a company guy, you may not care. It's not your truck. But when you're driving and you're hitting those hills in West Virginia, or you're on the 80, the 70, it could be a lot of wear and tear on your truck, man. Your tires. That leads to more breakdowns, which leads to you paying more money out of pocket, and that can be costly. Depending on what city you're in, finding parking may be extremely difficult. Again, I got another story. I had gotten late over to the Chicago area, and I drove for an hour and a half and could not find a parking spot. You're tired, you just clocked in 600 miles for the day, and you're sitting there looking for a spot to park. And, this government, I mean, I don't want to blame nobody, but you would think that they'd make a priority in providing some type of parking in these major cities for the people who transport everything we use in this country. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I actually ended up parking in a spot that said no parking. I just couldn't find anything, and I woke up to a ticket. So it's one of those things. I hear it in the media all the time that they're going to be putting some money together, some bill for parking. I haven't seen it yet, but hopefully that's something that's coming on down the pipeline. Another con for over the road is the eating. Trucker weight. Most, I don't say most guys. I don't know everyone's experience. Most of the people that I've encountered, trucker weight is real. So there's a lot of guys who get into the truck at 195 and leave out of it 265. It happened to me. I gained, I think, 30 pounds in that 7 months that I was out. 30 pounds. And it comes from, you're on the go. There's not a ton of healthy food. If you're not a cooker already, it's kind of hard to dish something up in your truck. I do see, videos of people making home cooked meals in their truck, but I was an Arby's guy. I was a Wendy's guy. I was a Carl's Jr. guy. So I was eating unhealthy all the time. Working out, health, just adding along to that. It's kind of hard to keep the weight off too because you're not working out. You don't have a consistent place to go to the gym. And if you got equipment, which most guys do, flatbed, drive-in, whatever the case may be, reefer, it could be hard to get these trailers into some of these parking lots. So it's rough, man. Next, we'll do the pros of the local. So traditionally, locally, you are at home more. So more home time with the family, and that's always great, especially if you are married or you have kids. You want to be around to see them grow up. It's one of those things where, as a man, you got to take care of that. Breakdowns are handled in most cases, or at least for myself, in most cases by a mechanic that you're familiar with. If you're doing it right and you're local, and this is mainly for the owner operator guys, if you're doing it right and you're driving local, you got a tire guy, you got an oil guy, you got a over the road guy, you got a guy in this city, you got a guy in that city, you got a guy who can travel to you. That's going to be huge because if you're in an area that you're not familiar with and you just go with the local mechanic and you're in a bind, the second they sense a little desperation, they're going to take advantage of that. A job that they may have charged 1,500 for, all of a sudden it's 2,700, and I've seen it happen firsthand. There's really nothing you can do about it. It's one of those things. If you're out there, you got to play by their rules. Uh, this one is a huge one for me, and it's relationship building. So driving locally, I have been able to, and I guess this would even apply if you're a company driver. You're driving to the same spots, you know, or at least the same areas frequently. So that means you're getting familiar with the shippers, you're getting familiar with the receivers. And if you're out there trying to, I hate using the word network, but I like to gain knowledge from other drivers that are out there, especially owner operators. You're touching base with people. I've been able to connect with owner operators who are in a group chat now. I've gotten loads from guys who have seen something on the load board and called me. Hey, Tucker, there's this load paying $700. They're coming out of Downey, going to Oceanside. Are you available? I didn't see it. I'm sitting there, spaced out, driving down the road, listening to music or a podcast, and you get this offer for this load that you would have never checked. You might not have checked on the DAT load board, and now you're on. I've gotten hooked up with brokers who I still work with like that. Who, hey, I got a broker. He's a great guy. He has this lane. So you build these relationships, and even with the shippers and the receivers, if you're going to the same spot and you get to know people, you know them by their first name. It may help the load time or unload time, depending on where you're at. Everyone knows it's not what you know, it's who you know. So unfortunately, that applies to trucking as well, but it's just something that you do have to take into account. Let's go into some of the cons. I don't want to make this video too long, but first con for local is the stops. In most cases, you're going to be stopping a lot more than an over-the-road driver would. I do about 12 to 15 loads a week. A lot of those are short loads. They're all short loads. Some of them shorter than others. But let's just do the math on it. I did 15 loads this past week. So how many stops is that? If you're doing one pick, one drop, that's 30 stops. That's 30 times you got to alley dock that truck in whatever kind of alley dock setup they got. So if you're one of those guys that just like to drive and you don't want to be in and out of your truck, local is probably definitely not the route for you. Here's one. Most local drivers operate in a populated city. So take your Houstons, your Los Angeles, your Atlanta, even Charlotte, North Carolina. You're operating in these cities that are highly populated. You're going to deal with traffic. It's just going to happen. If you're driving during that time and you're a local guy and you don't drive strictly at night, you're going to drive a traffic, deal with traffic. If you've been to Los Angeles, California, you've been on the 405, you know that it's a beast. The 5 freeway is a beast. The 101 is a beast. So if you just like to cruise and you don't want to be, driving, stopping, local's not for you. And this one right here, deadlines. This will be my last one because this is one is super big for me. When you're driving locally, there is more deadlines because you got to be in so many different places. So traditionally, how my lanes work is I'll deliver a load in the morning. I'll get there at about 7. I'll have another short load that's scheduled to pick up at 10. That will deliver straight through. That's a short load down the street, about 20 miles. Hopefully they take less than 2 hours, and then I got a 2:30 pickup that'll bring me back. So when that is your setup, everything has to be like on time. If there's traffic and an accident on the 5, you're screwed. If the receiver or the shipper is backed up and they can't get to you within a couple of hours, you're screwed. So it's one of those things where your anxiety level is up, but when you pull it off, it feels fantastic. When you have to cancel a load and make that call to the broker, it could be tragic. So that's just a few of the pros and cons over the road versus local. I got to get some rest, man. I got to load tonight at 11 o'clock. You be the judge. Some guys have done over the road. Some guys have done local. If you have any comments, put them in the comment section on what you think is the best. But I'm doing local now, so obviously I'm a little biased. I love local versus over the road, but to each his own, man. You guys have a good one. Stay blessed. Keep the wheels moving, and I'll see you next week.